All right, sports fans, it is time for another episode of Pez's Picks. I'm Jeff Hartman. I'm not Pez. I don't have the picks. That's this guy next to me for watching us live on YouTube. Pez, welcome to the show. How's it going?
It's beautiful here at the South Jersey Shore, Jeff. We don't want to be connected to the Jersey Shore MTV shows, but though I respect those people, they've made millions of dollars as dysfunctional people, and I know those beaches. We're a little slower down here in South Jersey, just getting off the beach. Hasn't rained since early August, Jeff. There's some tasty waves out there in the verbiage of Jeff Spicoli, but no rain. Uh, Beach today felt like a nice June day. We got a nice sea breeze. It's probably 80 degrees off of the beach, and I don't know. I'm a little concerned, Jeff, but we don't need to get climate change talk.
No.
We got winning gambling going on here in college and NFL last week, so we're off and rolling, man. We're feeling good.
Yeah, and like you said before we hit record, that this is the first winner week we've had. Where in college football, we have a 2-1 record last week. NFL a 3-2 record. We're going to touch on all those things, but before we get into those games, I want to talk a little World Series action. It is set. I think it's Friday night. Is the game one of Yankees versus Dodgers. You want to talk about how to approach the World Series from a gambling perspective, and I'm going to give you the floor to do that.
So, Jeff, there's a Netflix documentary out about 20 years ago. The Yankees were up 3-0, and the Dodgers came back, won 4 straight. I don't think in the documentary, Jeff, I'm not going to watch it, Manny Ramirez and Big Papi.
As the Red Sox, not the Dodgers. You said
I mean,
the
Dodgers.
Dodgers.
Yeah, I'm thinking this year, right? The Red Sox, Big Papi and Manny Ramirez, they shot up some sort of horse HGH or steroids, Jeff. They were jacking balls literally out of the park. I still think FFSN should go back and try and get gamblers and money back. Having said that, we were up 3-0. I had money on the Yankees in the series, and my compadres and I suggested there's no way the Yankees lose 4 in a row. Let's start doubling down on these closing games. And the next thing you know, Jeff, I couldn't take the wife on Christmas vacation that year. We lose 4 in a row. I lose the series bet. Gambling 101 lesson here. You can take the series and pick one of these teams. And right now, we've got the Dodgers minus 125 to win the series, Yankees plus 105 to win the series. I think the smartest gambling situation in baseball playoffs is to either bet the series or bet game by game. In the early rounds, I think betting game by game, maybe a little bit more fun. I think you can save yourself a lot of money. You can be a conservative gambler, and you can kind of narrow it down to whatever team you like and take the series. But if you take the series, I recommend not to take daily games. I mean, maybe you want to play some player bets or some prop bets. But at the end of the day, I think you take each game, or you sit some games, or you take the series and you just enjoy it, get the popcorn, get the brewskis, whatever you're doing, stogies. I don't know what people are doing. But right now, Dodgers minus 125, Yankees plus 105. When we punch the numbers, Jeff, the Yankees probably data-wise are not the better team. I mean, it's very close, but the Dodgers have better offensive numbers. Some would argue maybe better pitching numbers, especially in the pen, especially in the closing situation. But I think the Yankees are going to win this series. I think it's destiny, Jeff. It's been 15 years, been way too long. As a Phillies fan, I like the Yankees, Jeff. I always know who's on their team. They're on TV constantly.
Yeah.
They're like the Manchester United of the baseball. Everybody in the world knows the New York Yankees, right? So I think if Judge is hitting, Jeff, this is an over situation. I talked to a good buddy of mine and the action man, and he said, I'll be blind playing the over in every one of these games. He made a killing on the Dodgers in these playoffs. There's a ton of over games with the Dodgers. And, with Ohtani and Judge and Stanton and Soto, I mean, we got some home run hitters in this situation. So in game one, Jeff, if you're taking the series, Pez's Picks is taking plus 105 Yankees. I think you get plus money on the Yankees in the World Series. I know. I think that's unheard of, Jeff. It's kind of like what we talked about this weekend. You give the Chiefs 2 points, Jeff, we're taking it. You give Georgia Bulldogs points, we're taking them. So Yankees plus 105 for the series. Game one, Friday night, we'll be taking the Yankees plus 110. It's in LA. We've got Cole against Flaherty for the Dodgers. I don't know what this line's all about, Jeff. Sometimes we talk about this a lot. I was with our our house horse betting expert, the Sling Man, Jeff. And this morning he was gambling on Japanese B League basketball live action. I was watching it with him at about 8 in the morning. We turned it to Japanese translation. We don't speak Japanese, but it was more exciting. The B League, Jeff. So he's betting the JV. I think it was the Hiroshima Dragons. I don't even know who the hell they're playing, Jeff. But he suggests that at the end of the day, this is not. He's a baseball pitcher in his life, and Cole versus Flaherty. Cole has significantly better numbers, especially down the stretch. Flaherty, when we look at his recent outings, the guy's given up 8 runs, no runs, 4 runs, 3, 3, 4. So, and Cole gave up a couple hits kind of at the end of the season, but he's been a little bit better in playoffs. So we're going with the Yankees game 1. I think they're looking at this as, they're almost never excited to get in the World Series, Jeff. This is a regular thing for the New York Yankees. I know it's been a long time, but that organization expects World Series, participation, and I think that they are more suited for this. And if our man Judge is hitting, forget about it. This is going to be game over.
All right. Interesting stuff. The over-under in game 1 is 8.5 runs. So your buddy, the action man, that's a lot of runs to be scored in a World Series game.
Jeff, you look at these, you look at the results. I mean, we're looking 8.5. We would have won like 7, 5 out of the last 6 games. I mean, the Dodgers put up runs, and at times they give up runs when they're winning. I mean, against the Mets, they finished the series 10-2. They lost 6-12, and they win 10-5. So feast or famine with those Dodgers. And, we might be putting a total play out there. I'm going to check a little bit more data. The action man, the only guy we know to ever bet cricket. Sometimes that guy dislikes action, Jeff. So we got to keep an eye on him. But I think he's on to something here. So we're announcing Yankees today. Might put a total out there Friday. And, if we're not taking a lot of Friday college action, then we're going to jump on that, Jeff. We got to have Friday action. It's fun.
For sure. And just as a reminder to everyone, I'll say this throughout the podcast. Check out Pez's Picks on his social media handles at Pez's Picks, both on Twitter and on Instagram. Why? That's where you get the most up-to-date odds. That's also where you get the most up-to-date picks. So we're recording this on Wednesday. It's going to be released on Thursday. The problem is that sometimes things change. You want to make sure you're getting the best and most up-to-date information. So let's go to the bane of our existence, college football. My gosh, college football, though, 2-1 last week, not bad. We're dragging ourselves closer to 500. I mean, we are literally just like dragging ourselves, and we're 13-16 so far this season. The Wild West continues. Let's talk about last week. We had 2 right, Miami and Georgia, 1 wrong, Nebraska, who couldn't beat Indiana. What's your take on last week before we hear your picks this week?
13-16 on the year, Jeff. I mean, we're down money, but to be quite honest with you, I've seen way worse college football gambling seasons, and I think we're starting to get a little bit dialed in on, as much as we can. Nebraska going into it, Jeff. I mean, that was a game that I thought was the data screamed this is a great play, and I watched that game, and they just kind of made some mistakes, and quarterback kind of looked a little bit. I don't know. He just seemed a little bit over in the situation. Nebraska a better team when they're not getting scored on, and Indiana's got JMU's old coaching staff. They're a team that's experimenting with a new thing, and I go with Nick Saban, Jeff. He said teams that went big on transfers in the portal, he didn't rely on very well because guys that are in the transfer portal, nobody wanted them, right? So I knew Indiana had this heavy transfer kind of team and older guys, a little bit more experienced. Our 6th-string punter from 20 years ago, our JMU resident expert. I mean, he attacked me, Jeff, after game started, and he saw the Instagram play. He liked this situation. So I think it's a learning process. Maybe you can build a team out of, kind of leftover players, if you will. We talked about it afterwards. He said, some of the guys on that team are 25 years old. You're going up some guys in Nebraska, maybe 18, 19. There's a big man difference there. So, that was a disappointment. Miami, love that game, Jeff. I love that line. I'm still offended, Jeff. Georgia, Texas. Well, we talked about, we predicted it, Jeff. Quarterback controversy in Texas. Manning and Ules, they bench him. They put Manning in. Who would have ever thought that Texas would have a quarterback controversy as the number 1 team in the country 8 weeks into the season, right? So, I mean, who knows with Texas? This team could fall apart now. I like Manning. I actually think he's probably a better quarterback. I don't know if he's a better college quarterback, though. It might not be as mobile. Forget about it, though. Georgia stomped that team. Georgia's back looking for real. I think Miami too, Jeff. That's a team that they're kind of getting hit with the lightning right at the right time of the season, and that's a team to watch going forward.
All right, so those are last week's picks. Let's talk about the games this week. Who are your plays in college football?
So first play, Jeff, we're gonna go. I gotta apologize to this quarterback, the Syracuse, the Orangemen. I took a lot of cheap shots at this guy last year, Jeff. We won a lot of money against him. Kyle McCord, Ohio State. They dumped him. I love betting him. I can think of that Ohio State-Michigan game. That guy couldn't throw a ball more than 5 yards. Lighting it up, Jeff. Maybe last year Ohio State, the system didn't work for him. I don't know. Maybe the guy got better. He's a Jersey boy. I didn't grow up too far from this kid. So I apologize to Kyle McCord. We're getting behind him this week. 19 touchdowns to 6 picks. I mean, this guy's starting to look like an NFL quarterback, possibly, maybe like a kind of backup guy. They're playing Pitt. Syracuse laying 6. And that seems like a lot of points on the road. Not a far commute. The line opened at 3.5. So, I'm not the only person that's looking at this. And when we look at the data, Jeff, that Pittsburgh really hasn't beaten too many good teams. They are 6-0, but when you look at it, they're playing Kent State, Youngstown State, Carolina's a decent win. Cal, not great, but we look at Syracuse. When you look at their results, they beat 2 ranked teams. They beat a solid Georgia Tech team. They beat a UNLV team who was ranked at the time. They beat NC State last week. So I like Syracuse in this situation. It's their 3rd road game on a row. I know as a former college athlete and college coach, this is something that college coaches use. I don't think traveling matters as much as it does even in the NFL. These guys don't have families or anything. Even if you're at home, Jeff, they take you to a hotel 2 days before the game anyway. So I know that coach is saying they disrespect us on the schedule. They think, we're going to lose this game. The whole country's counting against us, even though the line's there. But I love Syracuse in this situation, laying the 6. And I think it's going to be a good Friday night way to start off our season. And baseball game gets bored, you go back and forth, maybe get the whole dual screen going, Jeff. Some people are, fancy TVs out there now. Love this situation.
All right, what's the next play?
So, and I watched a lot of them this week. Navy, Jeff, hosting Notre Dame, getting 13, and that line's been going up. It's been kind of shifting 12.5, 13, but I love Navy at home. When we look at the data on this team, I love everything about what they're doing, Jeff. They are a team that knows their identity. They run the ball. I mean, they're averaging a ton of yards on the ground, 275 yards a game. When we look at the defense, Notre Dame's got decent numbers, Jeff. They're probably a decent defensive team, but I think when you have that much pressure from a run-based team that knows who they are, Navy's going to be fit. Those guys aren't doing bong hits and going out drinking this week. I mean, they're locked down in Annapolis, right? Who knows what's going on Notre Dame? With this NIL, I guarantee there's a ton of guys getting Johnny Manziel. They're taking private jets at 10 o'clock at night. They're going to Vegas. Whatever happens there, they're getting home at 6 a.m. So, we look at Notre Dame, the action man, the guy I mentioned earlier. We love betting against Notre Dame. Notre Dame's a fraud every year, Jeff. They love ranking Notre Dame. Everybody makes money off of Notre Dame, the TV stations, Notre Dame itself. So I think a little bit overrated at this point. They lost to Northern Illinois, that's not a legitimate team to lose to. A couple solid wins, Jeff, and they did beat Georgia Tech, who's got a nice run game. But I think Navy's on a mission. This is a must-win at home. Tough place to play, Annapolis. I mean, they're going to have, you got a bunch of sailors there yelling, Jeff. I wish they gave those guys some beers and some gas, but I don't think they will. But I love Navy this week, plus 13 at home.
Plus 13,
I mean, a lot of pride in that team too, Jeff.
So, okay. And how many plays do you have in college this week?
So we've got one more. We've got Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech. Georgia Tech plus 11 on the road. And I'm hoping this doesn't come back to haunt me, Jeff. But when you look at Georgia Tech, I think they're a better team than the results that they've shown. At the end of the day, maybe I overrated them, Jeff, and we're going to find out this week. But when you look through the data and you look at Virginia Tech, they really have not played a lot of good teams. The results for Virginia Tech have been based on some kind of soft opponents, Jeff. And, I think, with this line opened at Georgia Tech plus 7, it's up to 10.5. I just can't figure that one out, Jeff. I think they're a better team than that. I mean, they have had some disappointing results, and I think though at the end of the day, when you look at what Georgia Tech brings to the table with their two-prong attack, I mean, we've got studs at the running back and the quarterback position. Haynes King is the only question mark, Jeff. If he's out, we're going to probably pull this game. He did not play last week. I'm trying to punch up right now and see if he's in. So that is a question mark game for us. If Haynes King is out, then this play is off the table. I'm hoping that we can get some more info in the next couple of days. But if Haynes King is in, I think that line could move. So, if you're betting online, if you're betting through a betting house, you could probably lock that game in now, plus 11. And you can check that game out and you can do a pregame buyout, maybe cost yourself $5. But I think, at the end of the day, Haynes King's probably going to play. His season has not been as great as he had hoped. His touchdowns are down a little bit. But he's got Jamal Haynes running back. This guy's a stud, 551 yards, 8 TDs. So if Haynes King is in, we're all over Georgia Tech, and that's something we're going to be watching. Hopefully we'll know by Friday, Saturday.
All right, so the picks for NCAA this week: Syracuse over Pitt, Navy and Notre Dame, Georgia Tech over Virginia Tech, and Navy and Georgia Tech are getting points while Syracuse is giving them on the road in Pittsburgh. But let's get the Wild West out of the way. Let's talk about our bread and butter, the NFL. The NFL coming off a 3-2 week and upped our numbers to 19-12 on the season so far in the NFL. Pretty good. We're finding our footing. Last week, wins: Kansas City, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, and the Jets, Baltimore over Tampa Bay on Monday Night Football. And then the losses, your buddy Turd Cousins, as you call him, loses to the Seattle Seahawks, and Minnesota is not able to get the job done against Detroit. What are your thoughts on last week before you look at this week's picks?
I was talking, with my colleagues, Jeff, in this industry, and there's one team that's very consistent, maybe two now. I'm going to say the Baltimore Ravens have entered into that consistent team. I mean, they've kind of figured out they had some new pieces to that machine, and bringing in Travis Henry, they've kind of figured out how to kind of work with Lamar, and that team looks unstoppable. Kansas City Chiefs, I'm pretty sure they picked up DeAndre Hopkins today, Jeff. He's not what he once was, but Hopkins as a second or third option. Who isn't picking up this guy? They're getting better as the year goes on. So, Atlanta, I mean, this team, they look great one week, and then you lose to a Seattle team who, and he made me look bad. Geno Smith lit it up, Jeff. I said he sucked and he was over. A guy had a great game, no turnovers. And I watched a lot of this as well. They just couldn't kind of catch a break. A lot of penalties for Atlanta, which to me means bad coaching usually. So that was a bit of a disappointment. We're very proud of ourselves, Jeff. On Instagram, we called out Brock Purdy, potentially a fraud quarterback again. Like I said last year, I talked about him looking shaky, even though his numbers were really good. 3 picks, Jeff. This guy, he's 0-14 if he turns the ball over. 3 picks. I mean, I don't know what the lines are being made based on, Jeff. When they're lacking Ayuk, McCaffrey, Purdy, or Debo, that team's below 500. By the end of the game, they're missing 3 of those guys, Jeff. So I don't understand San Francisco. I think their season's a little bit of a soft schedule. But Patrick Mahomes, even though he threw 2 picks, I mean the guy's amazing. I love your Steelers, Jeff, and I have to apologize to Russell. Guy looked great. I mean the offense definitely looked a little better. That defense. I mean Aaron Rodgers. What did he end up with? 2 picks, I believe he did.
He threw 2 costly interceptions. Yeah.
I mean, I think Pittsburgh, Jeff. I don't want to jinx your team, but they're looking good. They're looking as good as anybody right now.
5-2 is 5-2, right?
I mean, they've had a pretty tough schedule if you really want to look at it. So
it's gonna get worse after the bye. Trust me. They have 1 game against the Giants. They have a bye, and then it's a gauntlet to finish the season.
And that's something to talk about with the Jets as well. I think they have data-wise strength of schedule. The Jets have the softest schedule left in the league. One of the lowest winning percentages in a schedule with about half the season left we've ever seen in history. So we could see the Jets start to win some games, even though we don't like Aaron Rodgers. We don't mind winning money off anybody, Jeff, right? We even bet the cockroaches sometimes stupidly, but we try. So I think at the end of the day, we're starting to see some evening out. Baltimore, I mean, that team, I love watching them. I love run-based teams. I love teams that kind of look like they know who they are, right? You're either a run team or you're a passing team. You're a defensive team or you're an offensive team. There's, the KC's Mahomes. The Eagles this week, to me, look like they gained their identity. We're going to pound the ball. We're going to control the clock. We're not going to do stupid Sirianni plays. So I love Baltimore. That's a power team. I love Pittsburgh. That's a power team. And, we're starting to. I think we talked last week. As you get more data and you get to see how teams' chemistry are coming forward, you start to eliminate teams as options. I'm not betting Carolina. We're not gonna lay money on the Giants. I doubt we're gonna bet the. I shouldn't say this, Jeff, because we might this week, but I doubt we bet the Cowboys ever again. Situationally, though, any team you should really look at and we'll punch the data on, but consistency. That's what we're looking for. And, we're starting to see a little bit of that squeak through the wires here.
All right. How many plays do you have this week?
So we're announcing 2 today, Jeff. We can talk about the third.
Okay.
This week it's a breathtakingly tough week, and we talk about this a lot, Jeff. I see a lot of trap games. Trap game meaning, how could you not take this one? But I think there are trap games out the wazoo this week. Detroit laying 11 at home to Tennessee. I don't like that game, Jeff. New England +7 hosting the Giants or the Jets. I'm not taking it, but I won't. I don't like the Jets in that situation. We've got Denver laying 10 to Carolina. I don't think either of those teams are good. So, there are weeks that you should lay off your action. You shouldn't be lured into these. I think Kansas City's another great example, Jeff. After how great they've looked, that would not shock me this week if Vegas wins this game outright. KC's at Vegas. Vegas currently getting 10. That wouldn't shock me if they win that game outright. That's just kind of what the NFL kind of does. And, they don't want teams checked out for the season. They don't want markets checking out and not watching, not going to games. So I know everyone in the world says that sounds crazy. It sounds crazy to me too. But Andy Reid is infamous for winning huge games and then putting up a donkey, right? Or and how can you get pumped up for Vegas, Jeff? Right? I mean, these guys. Kelsey's probably him and Taylor Swift will be out for 5 in the morning the night before. Who knows what's going on? So I think we got to tread lightly this week. A game that I like a lot, and and I know I'm wearing the shirt, Jeff. So maybe I'm being a little bit of a homer here. We haven't taken them yet this year, so just to let everybody know that I'm not some guy that's betting the Eagles every week. That kind of annoys me because that kind of is an insult to the sports handicapping market we have here, Jeff. But Cincinnati laying 2.5 to the Eagles. The data screams take Philadelphia this week. I'm going to say they're the best rushing offense in the league when Jalen and when Saquon are getting the ball and Sirianni's got his head out of his ass. But second in the league currently, about 167 yards rushing a game. 21st in the league since he is against the run. They don't stop the run very well, Jeff. When you punch the data offensively and defensively, the Birds are 9th overall total offense up against 22nd defense. We've got the Eagles defense 9th overall up against the 14th ranked offense. So I don't know where this data is coming from. Some people think Cincinnati maybe turned the corner a little bit, is coming on. Burrow's got some great numbers right now, 14-2, and that's pretty strong. But I love Philadelphia in this situation. I love the way their defense is playing. Fangio's kind of got these guys believing in it. They're pressuring the quarterback. They're getting sacks. And anybody that's watched Joe Burrow, and I'm not a big fan of him either. I think he's a little soft, but he does not like to get pushed around. I think the Birds are going to be all over him. And the Birds have something to prove. People are counting that team out. I still think they're one of the best teams in the NFC. I think they win the division as well. So all over the Eagles +2.5.
All right. Yeah, I'm shocked. Hey, some homework for you. I'd love to know the Eagles' record under Sirianni when AJ Brown is in the lineup versus when he's not. I think he's the cog. He's the one that makes their offense go. Because when he's not there, they suck. I'm going to be blatantly honest with you. Pez, you know it. You've seen it.
Sure.
But when he's in the lineup, Devontae Smith is more of a weapon. Saquon Barkley is more of a weapon because they can't load the box. Jalen Hurts has a guy he can throw to for 50-50 balls. I would love to see those numbers. I'm not an Eagles fan, or I would have looked it up already.
Well, you're correct, Jeff. When he's out, I'm pretty sure they're below 500 team. And when Lane Johnson's out, they're a below 500
Yep.
team. And, my only concern, my lot is out. I mean, who's an irreplaceable guy. I mean, this guy's an amazing human. Uh, but I think the Eagles kind of showed that they punched that hole a little bit last week. Jalen did take some sacks, but I think that Cincinnati's defense is porous, and I'm not worried about them as much. Devontae's production has been down. When you're pounding the ball with Jalen and Saquon, when you see Jalen step back, and I had a lot of people attack me last week, it appeared Jalen missed a couple dump offs, and there were guys wide open. My guess is when they pound that ball, they're setting up for long balls. They're setting up for bombs, and we saw a perfect one, a 42-yarder to AJ. And I mean, when that ball is put on his hands, he's catching it, Jeff. I mean, this guy, he's kind of reminds me of Terrell Owens, physical guy, runs great routes, and I think you're 100% correct.
All right, what's your next play?
So, Chicago at Washington, Jeff. Chicago, and I've been waiting for this game 2 weeks, Jeff. Caleb Williams is the first rookie quarterback to win 4 of his first number 1 pick quarterback to win 4 games out of his 6 first games, Jeff. I like Caleb. His numbers, not great though, right? 9 TDs to 5 picks. I don't think he's going to be the first guy to win 5 games, Jeff. I think history says number 1 pick quarterbacks who start the season, they got to struggle a little bit, and we've seen him struggle. I think at the end of the day, when you look at the wins that Chicago has, they've been against soft teams. I mean, they beat the Titans, they beat the Rams, they beat the Panthers, they beat the Jaguars, right? So, in Washington, this year's kind of surprise team. I think they're better than all those teams. They're at home. I think when you give a team like Chicago a week off, which they're coming off a bye, that might not be helpful, Jeff. I think pressure builds when everyone starts saying they're good. I think this week Washington wins outright. I would take the points anyway because, as we know, these lines get pretty accurate. Plus 1.5. To be quite honest with you, Jeff, I think Jaden Daniel is a better quarterback than Williams. 6 touchdowns and 2 picks, and new coaching, new ownership in Washington. They got a new thing going. I think defensively, I mean, they're equal or better. I mean, when you look at the numbers, pretty similar teams data-wise. Offensively, though, Washington is fantastic. 4th overall, 3rd rushing. Rushing teams are winning this year, Jeff. Scoring's down. Teams that control the clock and pound the ball are winning games this year out of nowhere, right? This league has been kind of the Canadian Football League for the last couple of years. You gunned it, and now we're back to run ball. We're back to the Steelers, the Ravens, or the Eagles, and when you pound that ball, you control the clock. If you put Williams behind, I don't think he's there yet to bring a team back. And I don't think they're winning games when he's putting up 30 or 40 passes, which I think in Washington he might have to do if they're down early. I love Washington in this situation, plus 1.5.
So Washington is getting 1.5 at home?
Love it, Jeff. Love it.
Wow.
I mean, that to me is, I say we get on this, and I'm seeing 2.5 actually now, Jeff. That line's jumped, so let's make that 2.5 Washington. I love it.
Just like going back to the college picks to Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, this is a game that should be in limbo based on Jaden Daniels' health. He had a rib injury last week. Dan Quinn said he's not sure, so make sure you check out Pez's picks because I could see us if Jaden Daniels is ruled out, I'd get the hell out of this game. But Marcus Mariota is the backup. But yeah,
we're taking that into account. I read an article today that he's probably playing, Jeff. But if that changes, I don't know if we're going to stick with that game. We'll have to see how the line moves, and
sure,
pay attention on Sunday. Our last game, that's an iffy, Jeff. We're going to really look at this one. And I've been burned by them already. I took the Dallas Cockroaches, and I tried to offer an olive branch to Karma here, and I got burned for it, Jeff. But I don't know how San Francisco is laying 4 points. Ayuk is out, I believe. Yep, he's already injured reserve.
Oh, he tore his ACL. He's done.
So that's definitely right, ACL. Yep. So he's done. Debo, who knows? There's some flu bug going around the team. McCaffrey's definitely out. I hate to say it, but I think the Cockroaches, this is a must-win game. I mean, that team, that coach has got to be. I mean, he's got to be scared, right? Jerry Jones wants to coach that team. We all know that. So, I think this is a possible. We're not announcing this as official. Gonna keep an eye on the injuries. I think San Francisco might have more sick players, is what I've read. There are 3 or 4 of them that are battling the flu or whatever the hell they have out there. I mean, Debo checked out of that game, Jeff. That was awesome. Who checks out of a game because they're sick? Michael Jordan. That guy gambled till 12 in the afternoon. He was throwing up, pretending to have the flu. That guy played. They won, Jeff. So I don't know. We'll take a look at this one. I think the NFC East is better than the numbers show too. So that's one that we're going to take a look at. And the Monday night, when we really look at that, I mean, we'll be looking for some action on Monday night too.
All right, very good. All right, Pez, there you go. There are your picks for this week. Any final thoughts?
Well, let's go Birds, Jeff. Let's go. I love the naysayers. I love when we get attacked on Instagram that we like the Birds. People love to hate the Philadelphia Eagles, Jeff, and we welcome that. We welcome all the haters. This is our week. Joe Burrow going down, Jeff.
Hey, as a Steeler fan, I'm rooting for Philly this week. So there you go.
Thank you. Thanks for the support.
Right. Make sure you check out Pez's Picks on social media platforms at Pez's Picks, both on Twitter and Instagram, for the latest odds, latest picks, latest leans, all that fun stuff. Pez, until next week, man, have a good weekend. Enjoy the games.
Let's go.